you can pick up on someone's passion for training the moment they step up to a deadlift bar. It's just like the way they get into it, like locked in.
That's what you love about training, isn't it? It's that 30 seconds leading up to the set. You can't replicate it any other way.
Alright guys, so Luke Miller here for No Switch Fitness, and we're here today with Calum Raistrick.
Come all the way across the pond for deadlifts.
Yep, so gonna be getting back and hamstrings day in, so some great hinging. Really looking forward to it because we got a 300-pound monster training with us today, and super excited to have him in town.
My body's just about recovered from that pendulum.
I know, the 8-plate pendulum was like 2 days ago, so we're still a little sore, but we'll give it a go. Close to 4. So with this underhand hamstring pull down, setup's one of the most important things because of the path. You see a lot of people try to do this 2 hands at a time, and they just don't have the external rotation access. Their elbows flare, they turn it into this like half crunch. So I'm a big fan of doing this unilateral, scooting over where you can align that wrist, elbow, and shoulder. And the last thing is sitting back from the seat pad. So what you'll see us do is when we set up, instead of gluing ourselves to the seat pad, we're actually pulling ourselves back here so that we can counterforce with our hand, and the arm path doesn't pull us into a lot of elbow flexion. Because when you're all the way up here with the arc of this machine, it becomes a lot of elbow flexion that pulls a lot of bicep in and minimizes the lat. So to try to minimize the bicep flexion, we're pulling ourselves away from the arc so that it follows that lat plane almost like a pullover with just a little bit of elbow flexion. So just kind of watch how we execute these and you'll get the hang of it. If you set this up right, this is a killer movement to do as your first pattern of the day.
So I think we're gonna hinge on the third exercise today. We'll sort of do a little bit of lat work and a little bit of hamstring work first. I think prioritization from an exercise selection standpoint here, we're gonna pick these exercises to challenge that short range fresh first before we hit anything else. So the complexity of this, doing it when there's already fatigue there, will render the exercise a little bit more challenging to get maximum stimulus out of that. So we'll hit this first, we'll be nice and fresh. Good, come on. Come on, Luke. Yeah, come on. Step.
For me, like, coaching is my utmost priority, and like Calum is definitely in that same boat. And to have someone just to like talk shop with and is just passionate to the same level, like this dude was getting his laptop out of open with his laptop at like 12:30 last night, like still doing client check-ins and stuff, and just seeing someone else doing it like that on the nights that it's needed is just like, yeah, there's other people that care about this just as much as I do.
We've been molded and potentially coming from an educational background, which is quite similar in terms of some of the original sources. So I think a lot of the viewpoints we have and the methodologies of how we coach and the principles we run things by are quite similar. So that's where that click comes in.
Yeah. I think it's bridging the gap too, right, between like strictly anecdotal and strictly educational.
Yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't, and I think you'll probably see the same. You'll say the same for yourself, but I wouldn't say I'm an extreme of any specific camp. I'm like a merge of a lot of different things, and I think you've kind of taken a similar mindset there in terms of you'll take bits from each individual element of the industry and different educational sources and just make what you feel as though is the most appropriate.
Each person you're working with is a different case study, right? And so if you don't have that mindset, you get kind of caught in this trap of coaching the same client. Yeah. And it's not how you get to the top of the coaching game. And for myself, I know, and I know for Cal too, it's like the only thing that we're focused on is being the best coaches in the industry, and it's considered, top of the game when it comes to education, coaching. When you're setting up for this, you gotta think that as you're coming back down with a hamstring curl, you're kind of wanting to take your upper body that way. So one of the most important parts on the setup is grabbing this pole so that you're locking yourself in and it doesn't want to pull you back that way as you come down with the eccentric. Just creating a counter force to where it wants to pull you.
Picked a movement that will complement with the hip hinge that we'll go after, so I think we're going to hit a bit of a hybrid RDL, but if we look at where the main load's being placed in that hip hinge, we're obviously loading the length of the extremities of the movement. We're going to pick the kneeling / standing leg curl to challenge that shortened position when we're fresh. I think doing a seated leg curl, I think you said this before, doing a seated leg curl into an RDL, we're pretty toasted after you've gone seated leg curl, because it's kind of, you're basically toasting the same contractile range twice in 2 movements. So I think just from a feedback perspective as well, for me, I really like putting some blood in there in that short range first before we load it in a lengthened position. Whereas I think if you did a seated leg curl now, even probably the middle peg on the prime as well, you're going to get into that end range of the RDL. It's just not going to feel nice there because you're already taxed. So this will be a nice little prime move for what's to come.
One big benefit of single-legged versus like the lying two is your propensity to get pelvic motion that's going to create a lower back pump. There's a lot less here than it would be on the dual lying hamstring curl. Calum being up in the low 300s and me in like the high 240s, low 250s, considering that like propensity to anterior pelvic tilt is important because it can ruin the hip hinge that's next. So part of the exercise selection thought there as well.
We both come from spend time in the trenches yourself and then apply that at the same time. I think one thing I've always tried to live by, even though I'm not actively competing per se now at the moment, and that's never to say I won't do it again, but it demands a different level of authority to clients and athletes when you've been there yourself. And when you can have a true level of empathy because you kind of know what they're going through and you've been there. Whether that's putting the muscle on, whether that's getting to a specific body weight, whether that's getting to a specific condition and prep. I think there's a deeper understanding, a deeper level of authority you can deliver when you've done it.
The blocks are kind of keeping us from going into that like lumbar flexion. It's kind of the end range of completely lengthening our hamstrings. You'll even see there will be like a slight knee bend as we descend, more so out of just trying to keep that lumbar flexion from happening. It does bring in a little bit more glute, but for a posterior chain day, like, and such a compound movement, like, you're gonna get a little bit of everything, so it's acceptable.
Oh! Go! Work, come on! Time to fucking work, let's go! One fucking set, come on! Come on, bud! Yes, sir! Nice. Come on! Come on! Pull hard! Yeah! Up! Come on, bud! One fucking set! Yes! Nice, bud! Let's go! What was that, 5, 6, 7? That's a fucking lot of reps. Those first 3 move like butter.
Alright, so Calum is 6'4", and I am 5'9". Us pulling off the same blocks is not the same height off the floor. So we're adding a little bit more of him. Come on, Cal.
Come on, Cal. Come on. 3, come on. 4. Ah! Come on, Cal. Get 5. Go. 1. Come on, Cal. You only get 1 first pull session. Let's go. Come on. Ah! Fuck. Ooh. Motherfucker. That bottom inch on the warm-up sets, there was like 10% of that rep where I had no control.
Yeah, you just let
it was almost like eccentric, drop it,
yeah,
brace, pull it, and then pull through. Yeah. Whereas on that one, you can lock in the whole way.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that's important. Like if you watch our eccentrics on the way down, both of us are controlling it where positionally, when we let it rest on that dead stop, 1, we're not bouncing it, but 2, positionally where we are already in a place where tension for the brace is there, and then we're just ripping it back up. Like the tension's never gone.
Always there.
Alright, so this is a really good piece, Prime Extreme Row. Really just like after hinging, we don't want to be loading that lumbar. So this is a really good option. We can kind of set the pegs load according to where we want it. So loading it the most in that stretch position and tapering as we pull, which is ideal. One of the downfalls to this piece though, what a lot of people do is, Cal was talking about like back in Manchester, they would kind of jump on this and immediately use like the neutral grip handles. With the arc of this machine, even in the overhand position, it's gonna pull you into that internal rotation, which is a really tight spot to be in when you're neutral grip, because you just start flaring that elbow, you get a lot of torque, and it cannot be good for like back development. So overhand row here position, really driving tension through the teres and mid-trap, and almost thinking about arcing it up into that scapular motion together.
Yes, Luke, come on. I'm there. Yes. Yes. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Easy. Come on. Come on. Yes, again. Again. You. 1, it's on there. Come on. Yes. What a fucking wrap.
You have this like passion that you just foster within the training process, and then you see it get even more fulfilled outside of your own competing, and it's just transcendent.
Yeah, I think that's an element that probably for me and you will never leave us, even to the day where even for me now, I haven't competed since 2019, but I'll still approach training the exact same way, it's the exact same mindset, because it's just the way we love to operate. So yeah, I think that reflects in a lot of other elements of our life as well, and the business as well. It's it's the pursuit of that at that kind of level of focus which reflects on everything.
Yeah. Come on, Cal. Single arm cable pullover, I really like this pattern later in a session. We run the cable all the way up so that we're pretty close to the cable when we do these, and it's heaviest in the top and tapers as we pull. And then the single arm just allows like bigger structure guys like Calum and me to align that hand, elbow, shoulder in the lat plane just to get the most out of the lat. So really good movement for the end of a session.
Little elements that you've seen here. Obviously, we've got our first collab seminar with No Switch and Pro Coach over in the UK in Manchester, which is like slap bang in the middle of England, towards the northern part of England. That is on March the 20th, which is our first one collaboration in the UK, and I think, obviously, based on the feedback that we've had so far, mostly from an online perspective on social media, there is quite a good demand from both parties there for more events to be taking place in the future. So I think once we've boxed off the first one, then I think we're going to look at running some of this stateside as well, coming over here a little bit later in the year and getting something locked in there, which would be really, really cool.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Make sure if you need to grab a ticket, grab one now, because tickets will be sold out. We're down to three tickets now, so make sure you grab it for the sold out.